What if the exact photo you carefully picked out to get the absolute most attention on a dating app is actually the precise reason you are still single?
Oh, yeah, that is the ultimate question right there.
Right. Like, think about that for a second. You're just sitting on your couch, scrolling through this seemingly endless catalog of human beings. And if you are the one putting your profile out there, you feel that agonizing pressure.
Oh, it's exhausting.
It really is. You have to somehow condense your entire complex, wonderful human existence into like a few pictures and a snappy bio. So welcome to today's deep dive.
Glad to be here.
Today we are looking at a single, frankly, just fascinating piece of source material. It's an article from Psychology Today by Dr. Gerrit E. Birnbaum, and it's titled, "Don't Let the Dating Market Turn You into a Product."
Which is such a great title, by the way.
It really is. So our mission for you today is to explore the brutal economics of these platforms. Specifically, we are exploring what we could call the ultimate swiper's dilemma. Like, do you use a highly sexualized, sexy photo to stand out instantly in that crowded market? Or do you focus on depth and risk being totally overlooked by a thumb moving at the speed of light?
I mean, it is a dilemma that practically everyone navigating the modern dating scene wrestles with daily. You know how exhausting this ecosystem can be.
Totally.
But what we are going to do in this deep dive is look under the hood. We're going to break down the actual psychology of why our digital first impressions, especially the ones designed to grab attention as fast as humanly possible, often backfire in completely unexpected, scientifically measurable ways.
Measurable ways.
Yeah, it's not just about what you are presenting. It is about how the human brain on the other side of that screen is fundamentally hardwired to decode rapid-fire visual information.
Okay, let's unpack this, because to really understand this dynamic, we actually aren't going to start with a dating app at all.
Right, we're starting offline.
Exactly. We are starting with a real-world, highly relatable parenting moment from the author of our source material, Dr. Birnbaum. She shares this personal anecdote about her teenage daughter.
It's a very common scenario, too.
Oh, absolutely. Like millions of other teenagers, her daughter uploaded a photo of herself to social media wearing a very revealing swimsuit. And immediately, Dr. Birnbaum's parental instincts flared up, and she asked her daughter to take the photo down.
Which, it makes sense.
Sure, but her reasoning wasn't just the standard parental panic about, like, predators or the wrong kind of attention. Her fear was about the fundamental message the photo broadcasted to the world.
Right.
She looked at that image and thought, this is what I have for sale.
Poof. Yeah.
As a mother, she knew her daughter had immense intelligence, humor, and kindness to offer, and she felt the photo just reduced all of that to mere surface-level physical packaging.
Yeah, it was a profound concern about reduction, about stripping away the multidimensional aspects of a human being. But the narrative takes a really compelling turn when Dr. Birnbaum shares this anxiety with a male friend of hers.
Right, and she expects him to be like, yes, absolutely, protect her.
Exactly. She fully expects him to validate her protective parental instincts. But instead, he looks at her like she's completely missing the reality of how the world works.
He gives her this totally pragmatic, kind of cold argument, right?
He really does. He offers a stark, purely pragmatic counter-argument. He basically tells her that her daughter is attractive, and physical attractiveness is a primary mechanism for how people get noticed in society.
Right.
His argument is essentially, well, why on earth wouldn't she use the tools at her disposal to her advantage?
His logic is basically, use the attractiveness to get your foot in the door. You secure the eyeballs first, you win the battle for attention, and then once you have a captive audience, you can reveal all the deeper, complex, sophisticated parts of your personality.
Exactly. The old bait and switch, but in a good way.
Yeah. But when I read that, my immediate thought was that he is describing literal clickbait for humans.
Oh, that's a perfect way to put it. Clickbait for humans.
Right. It's like when a YouTube creator puts a giant, flashing, sensationalized image on their video thumbnail. It absolutely guarantees the initial click. But treating yourself like a flashy YouTube thumbnail doesn't guarantee you're going to get actual subscribers who want to stick around and watch the whole video.
Right. Getting the click isn't the same as keeping the viewer.
Exactly. So I guess the big question is, does this friend's logic, this whole hook 'em with the looks and then keep 'em with the personality strategy, actually translate to the digital dating market?
Well, what's fascinating here is that exact strategy of leading with highly sexualized imagery triggers three specific, deeply ingrained psychological traps in the mind of the viewer.
3 traps. Okay.
Yeah. While the friend's theory sounds highly practical on the surface, the reality of digital dating creates a uniquely ruthless environment. On an app, your photos are the ultimate gatekeepers.
Right, because there's no talking first.
Exactly. If your picture doesn't catch someone's eye in a fraction of a second, the left swipe is an automatic reflex. The viewer never reads the bio, they never discover your rich inner life.
So you feel like you have to do it.
Right. The pressure to use the clickbait is immense, but when you do, you inadvertently walk right into these cognitive traps.
Let's break those down, because this is where the clickbait strategy really starts to unravel. Like, the brain doesn't just look at a sexy photo and think, wow, attractive person, let me read their resume.
No, not at all.
The first trap our source outlines is objectification. When you present a highly sexualized image, the person viewing that image often stops seeing you as a fully formed human entity.
They literally dehumanize you.
Exactly. You become a means to fulfill a fantasy. The viewer's brain actually strips away your agency, your thoughts, and your desires, effectively rendering you a two-dimensional object in their mind.
Which leads right into the second trap, which is competence bias.
Oh, this one is harsh.
It is particularly unforgiving. When you lead heavily with the sexualized body, the viewer's brain subconsciously assumes that the body is the only asset you have to offer.
Like a zero-sum game.
Exactly, a zero-sum heuristic. The assumption leaps from this person is highly sexualized to this person must be less intelligent or less interesting or less competent in other critical areas of life.
That is so wild.
The brain literally assumes that if you are relying this heavily on physical display, you must be compensating for a lack of intellectual or emotional substance.
And that feeds directly into the third trap, which the source identifies as the short-term trap.
Right.
The viewer categorizes you instantly based on that visual data. You get dropped into a mental bucket labeled fun for a weekend, or they assume your only goal is a casual encounter.
Yeah, you get pigeonholed.
Right. You absolutely do not get put into the bucket labeled long-term partnership or someone I want to build a life with.
No, you're locked out of that category.
But okay, I have to push back on this, though. I want to play devil's advocate for you, the listener, because there is a logical disconnect here for me.
Okay, let's hear it.
Sexual attraction is literally the biological foundation of most romantic relationships.
True.
If I'm looking for a partner, I inherently want to be physically attracted to them, and I want them to be physically attracted to me. Why would leading with the very thing that sparks a relationship, physical desire, suddenly disqualify me from having one?
That is a very fair point.
Like, if we know logically in our prefrontal cortex that an incredibly attractive person in a swimsuit can also hold a PhD and be a deeply caring partner, why does the brain penalize them for being sexy?
Well, that is the core paradox of modern dating. And the answer really lies in cognitive load and how human beings process rapid-fire visual information.
Cognitive load.
Yeah. When you are looking at hundreds of profiles in a single sitting, your brain is overwhelmed. It literally cannot process a nuanced, multidimensional psychological evaluation for every single face.
It would just fry.
Exactly. It needs a shortcut to avoid burning out. In psychology, we call these shortcuts heuristics.
Okay, heuristics.
Think of it as a mental spam filter. A highly sexualized photo is an incredibly loud visual signal.
Loud. Like that.
Yeah, it's so loud it drowns out quieter signals of nuance or intellect. Because evolutionary and social conditioning tells the brain that hypersexualized displays are correlated with short-term mating strategies, your brain uses that loud signal to make a split-second categorization.
Wow.
It basically saves mental energy by ignoring your prefrontal cortex's logic and relying on primitive sorting mechanisms.
So the speed of the app forces the brain to be reductive. It's not that we are incapable of seeing a sexy person as smart. It's that when we are swiping through 50 people a minute, we literally just don't have the bandwidth to do the math.
Precisely. The medium alters the cognitive processing. And Dr. Birnbaum's team didn't just theorize about this mental spam filter. They wanted hard empirical data on how these biases operate in the wild.
Right. They actually tested it.
They did. They needed to test the swiper's dilemma under rigorous scientific conditions.
I want to hear how they actually proved this, because moving from evolutionary theory to measurable data is where we find out if this bias is real or just a hypothesis.
So they set up a series of controlled experiments. In the first study, researchers gathered a group of single participants and had them evaluate a series of dating profiles.
Okay.
The variable they manipulated was the visual presentation. Half the profiles featured individuals in highly sexualized presentations. So, revealing clothing, provocative postures, flirtatious expressions.
The clickbait.
Yes, the clickbait. The other half featured individuals in non-sexualized presentations. Modest clothing, natural postures, everyday expressions.
Got it.
Crucially, the researchers meticulously matched the baseline physical attractiveness of the people in both sets of photos. They controlled for lighting, camera angle, and general physical symmetry.
Oh, that's smart.
Yeah, they wanted to ensure that the only thing being judged was the choice to present sexually versus naturally.
So after the participants reviewed these profiles, the researchers hit them with the evaluation metrics. They asked, do you see this person as a fully rounded human being or more of a sexual object?
Right.
Do they seem like a good candidate for a long-term relationship? And the ultimate question, would you personally be interested in a long-term relationship with them?
And the data returned was definitive.
Mm-hmm.
The highly sexualized profiles were judged significantly more negatively across all those metrics.
Across all of them?
All of them. Participants readily admitted they were visually drawn to the sexualized photos, so the clickbait worked. But they were markedly less interested in pursuing anything long-term with those individuals. They viewed them as less competent and less suited for a serious commitment.
But wait, how do we know the swipers just didn't like the specific faces of the people in the swimsuit photos?
Yes.
Like, if you use different people for the sexy photos and the modest photos, a skeptic could argue that the participants simply didn't vibe with the individuals in the sexualized group. Maybe they just had an annoying smile, and it had absolutely nothing to do with the revealing clothing.
That is the exact limitation the researchers identified, which is why they designed a second study to eliminate that possibility entirely.
Okay, how'd they do it?
Well, to prove causality, they had to isolate the presentation from the individual's inherent physical traits. Instead of using static images of different people, they utilized short video introductions.
Oh, wow.
And the brilliant part of the methodology was that they used the exact same individuals presenting in both conditions.
That is a phenomenal setup. So participant A sees a video of a specific person wearing revealing clothing and acting flirtatiously.
Yes.
Meanwhile, participant B sees a video of that exact same human being with the exact same face and voice, but they are dressed modestly and speaking naturally.
Exactly. By doing this, they isolated the presentation variable completely. The viewers weren't reacting to a different facial structure, a different level of charisma, or a different physical baseline.
It's just the clothes and the vibe.
The only difference was the clothing and the posture. And the results mirrored the first study flawlessly.
No way.
Yeah. When the exact same person presented sexually, the viewers immediately downgraded their suitability as a long-term partner. It proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that the face wasn't the issue. The sexualized presentation itself directly causes the viewer's brain to deploy that negative heuristic.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because my immediate reaction to hearing this data is to look for a loophole.
Of course. You want to game the system.
I want to hack the system. Let's say I want that initial click. I know the algorithm rewards attention, and I know a sexy photo stops the thumb from swiping left. But I also want to bypass that competence bias and prove I have depth.
Right.
What if I pair the highly sexualized photo with an incredibly wholesome, deep, caring bio?
Okay, I see where you're going with this.
Think of it like pairing a decadent triple fudge chocolate cake with a side of steamed kale.
The side of kale. Nice.
Right. I'm giving you the visual indulgence to get your attention, but I'm using the text to show you I care about my health and I have substance. Does the kale cancel out the cake?
Well, you've just described the exact premise of their third study.
Oh, really?
The researchers wanted to see if you can game the psychological response system. Can you use the visual hook to win the attention battle, but deploy textual information to signal your humanity and short-circuit those negative short-term assumptions?
So they created the ultimate dating profile balancing act. They took the sexualized and non-sexualized photos, but this time they paired them with two very distinct types of written bios.
Yep, two very different texts.
One was a communal bio, designed to project warmth and caring. The specific text used in the experiment read, "I love meeting up with friends, taking sunset beach walks, volunteering with the elderly, and assisting them on a weekly basis."
He is pure kale.
Pure kale. And they contrasted that with a neutral bio, which simply stated, "I like the beach, going to parties, and just enjoying life," like a standard nondescript dating profile sentence.
Exactly.
So they mixed and matched these variables, sexy photo with warm bio, natural photo with neutral bio, and so on, to see how the text interacted with the visual bias.
And the results of this specific experiment are mind-blowing. because they don't yield a single answer.
Wait, what do you mean?
The effectiveness of the chocolate cake and kale hack is entirely dependent on a massive gender divide.
Okay, tell me more about that.
The divergence in the data here is critical to understanding dating market economics. When men were evaluating women's profiles, the hack worked beautifully.
Really?
It worked.
Yeah. The warm, communal bio successfully mitigated the negative effects of the sexualized photo. For male viewers, reading about volunteering with the elderly provided a reassuring signal.
I see. It communicated that beneath the highly sexualized visual display was a woman who possessed maternal or communal traits, proving she was capable of a real caring partnership. It softened the objectification trap.
Okay, but what about the reverse? Because, however, when women were evaluating men's profiles, the exact same strategy was a complete and utter disaster. The warm bio paired with the sexy photo wildly backfired.
It failed catastrophically.
Catastrophically. Why?
To understand why, we have to look deeper into the evolutionary psychology of risk assessment.
Okay.
In the broader context of human history and mating dynamics, women generally carry significantly higher risks when making a poor mate selection compared to men.
Right. That makes evolutionary sense.
Whether those risks are physical, emotional, social, or reproductive, the stakes for women have historically been immense. As a result, female cognitive architecture is highly evolved to detect deception, manipulation, or incongruence in a potential partner's signaling.
Incongruence. That explains it perfectly. Picture the profile these women were looking at. You have a man who has deliberately chosen to upload a highly sexualized, shirtless, flexing photo.
Right.
He is visually screaming, "Look at my physical dominance, look at my aggressive sexual energy." But right beneath that intense visual dominance, his text softly claims, "I just love volunteering with the elderly on a weekly basis." It feels entirely discordant.
It does. And to the female brain's threat detection system, the visual presentation and the textual presentation are at war.
Wow.
Because she has more evolutionary risk at stake, that incongruence does not read as a balanced personality. It reads as a calculated manipulation. The wholesome bio becomes a Trojan horse.
A Trojan horse?
She subconsciously assumes he's using the sensitive, caring text to disguise his aggressive sexual intentions or to lower her defenses.
That is wild.
Instead of making him look like a well-rounded, sensitive guy, the wholesome bio actively destroys his trustworthiness.
So the kale didn't make the chocolate cake look healthier. It just made the kale look deeply suspicious. The viewers left wondering, why is this guy trying so hard to convince me he's harmless while aggressively showing off his abs?
Exactly. If we connect this to the bigger picture, it demonstrates a fundamental truth about human psychology. You cannot simply mathematically balance your persona.
It's not an equation.
Right. You cannot assume that a +5 in physical visual display and a +5 in wholesome textual display averages out to a perfect 10 in desirability.
Right. It doesn't work that way.
Human attraction, particularly when evaluating long-term compatibility and safety, relies on a coherent, authentic presentation of self. When the signals clash, trust evaporates.
So what does this all mean? If we synthesize the evolutionary theory, the cognitive load of swiping, and the hard data from these 3 studies, we can finally resolve the swiper's dilemma.
Yeah, we have an answer.
Yes, getting attention is step 1 in a crowded digital market. But if you present yourself purely as a sexualized object to win that initial split-second click, you are actively sabotaging your chances of finding a long-term partner. The brain's heuristics simply will not allow the viewer to see past the packaging. You win the immediate attention, but you lose the chance to be recognized for your actual depth.
But the core takeaway from Dr. Birnbaum's research is incredibly empowering, really, because it isn't telling you to hide your attractiveness.
Yeah.
The source material is explicitly clear. You do not have to be a less sexy person in your everyday life.
Good to know.
The strategy is entirely about sequencing. The goal on these digital platforms is to let your whole self cross the threshold first. Let the viewer's brain register the multidimensional human being.
Save the clickbait for later.
Exactly. Save the highly sexualized outfits and that intense physical energy for when you've actually met, when you know each other, and when a baseline of mutual human respect and trust has been established.
Stop putting yourself on the clearance rack just to artificially boost the foot traffic into your store. Let potential partners see the enduring value of the whole person before you reveal everything else.
This raises an important question, though. One for you to genuinely reflect on the next time you find yourself absent-mindedly swiping through faces on your phone.
Okay.
If modern dating apps are fundamentally designed through their speed, their user interfaces, and their algorithms to force us to market ourselves with these split-second visual hooks. Are these platforms actually capable of facilitating deep, long-term love?
Ooh.
Or are they, by their very structural design, inadvertently training us to treat ourselves and the complex human beings we swipe on exclusively like disposable products sitting on an endless digital store shelf?
It is a haunting thought to end on. Does the medium inherently destroy the message? Because if everyone is just trying to be the brightest, flashiest thumbnail in the catalog to beat the algorithm, it is no wonder the machinery of modern romance feels completely broken.
Yeah.
We are all obsessing over the packaging, but the system is designed to prevent us from reading the ingredients.
Spot on.
Keep that cognitive trap in mind the next time you update your profile pictures, or the next time your thumb hovers over the screen, ready to swipe left in a fraction of a second. Thanks for joining us on today's deep dive.